our players have made their choices, and this first game of the series is going to be hunterless, so we're actually going to see a completely different matchup and see what is in their lineup besides just the things that we saw them 2-0 with.
All right, Teechu, Void Terror, and Doomguard. He is going to be running a Zoo deck, and he's going to be running a few interesting cards like Void Terror. Void Terror coming back in because of Naxxramas. Going to keep just a Flame Imp, it seems, and that's good because he's looking to get that double 1 drop.
Yeah, especially since he has the coin, he wants as much of an early game as he can. He mulligans a Doomguard into a Doomguard and then gets a double Defender of Argus.
That's a rough hand. Dominus is considering keeping the Gadget Stand or throwing the Gadget Stand. He decides to throw. He probably would have kept it if he knew the opponent was handlocked, but he can't be sure.
He keeps a Fan of Knives, so he is trying to make sure that he's safe against a possible Zoo start. Fan of Knives itself doesn't necessarily get the job done, but any AE is better than no AE.
That's right. And he's got the preparation to go with the Fan of Knives, so he can rush into a start against it. And he draws an Earthen Ring Farseer, which is a good draw to get.
It's certainly better than nothing. The heal, of course, is very welcome against any type of aggressive deck, and it represents a board presence as well, which is something that you need at some point to at least trade with one or hopefully more of your opponent's cards. The Flame Imp means that it would probably only trade 1-1. Dominus has the option, though, of playing the Dagger and even prepping to Fan of Knives or Poison. He decides not to do that this turn.
Right, that would be a little bit extreme. Teechu picks up Power Overwhelming. This is actually going to be a fairly weak start on Zoo. And Zoo, do you think Nax in general has helped Zoo versus Miracle Rogue or the other way around?
I actually think the matchup is about the same as it used to be. The main points of the matchup are all still there. Zoo ends up, of course, being the aggressor, and some of the cards that you play in Zoo now are actually a little bit slower. They're more difficult to remove ultimately, but Miracle Rogue, of course, it just wants to survive just long enough to turn the game around and burst you down really quick. So Zoo, I think, is still about the same. You're trading a little bit more raw early damage for a little bit more stickiness, and it ends up playing out very similarly. Cards like the Void Terror that we saw, though, do really help enable some of those slower cards like Nerubian Egg and stuff like that. So Teechu ends up picking up Direwolf Alpha this turn. So he did coin out the Harvest Golem. It was his only real play last turn. And so now he's going to have to decide if he wants to trade in either the front end of his Harvest Golem or just let go of his Flame Imp.
I myself am more inclined to trade here. Well, with the Harvest Golem is what I was actually going to say, since you can't count on the Direwolf Alpha there. But the Flame Imp I can understand also, since rogues have a lot of way to deal 2 damage, including SI7 Agent and Backstab.
Even just the hero power that's already in play, the dagger that's already equipped, he knows that the broken Golem would probably not survive the turn. This represents the best chance for both minions to survive long enough to hit Defender of Argus. It's a little bit similar, but I think that's sort of why he made that play. He wants to try to hit 2 minions with Defender of Argus if possible.
Right.
Dominus is trying to figure out his best way to play around this current board. And his opponent is going into 4 mana, and he knows that his opponent didn't have like 2 3-drops in a row. And he decides to just take out the Harvest Golem. And so there is only going to be 1 minion in play for Defender of Argus. If Teechu doesn't draw something else really nice, he will just play Defender and bash in. Dark Iron Dwarf actually is a little bit better. So it's not much better. It still does die to Eviscerate, so Eviscerate plus Dagger. And he actually draws a Shiv instead, so he could, oh my goodness, he could make a gigantic Edwin this turn.
And he is going to go for it, and this is a really strong turn for the Miracle Rogue, dealing with everything the Zoo has while also putting out an enormous 8/8. And Zoos generally don't have a way to deal with this. Some run Owl with Power Overwhelming and Void Terror. It's tough to fit that in.
An 8/8 Edwin is a really, really big problem for Zoo. One of the best matchups for Edwin is this matchup. And sometimes other matchups, it just doesn't feel powerful enough. And I've even gone to the point of experimenting with cutting Edwin from the deck entirely and to mixed results. And this is the matchup, though, where you miss it the most. But he's got it. He's got an 8-8 Edwin.
Yeah, it's looking really good for Dominus. Dominus going to be able to clear the board yet again without utilizing his Edwin. And he's even going to be able to advance his cause by getting a Gnomish Inventor out.
Oh, wow. And he picks up Leroy to pair with that Shadow Step.
Wow.
So at this point, he just bashes in with the weapon to kill the Knight Juggler, and he's just going to get in there for 8 damage.
That's right. And if Teechu doesn't have anything, he's got the kill next turn. Dominus does. And Teechu can play Hunter Creeper and Defender of Argus, but all of these are like insects to the Edwin Van Cleef.
It will chip away at his health, and that is almost certainly going to be the play that is made. And at this point, there's still a way for him to break through pretty much immediately. And he's decided that he's got it. He's going to get in there for easily enough damage.
Right. Able to take care of both taunts, and Leroy for 12. That was a brutal game.
That was a very, very brutal game. Edwin coming up big. One of the cards that really helps swing the matchup as well is Preparation. Using Preparation without an Auctioneer is sometimes something where people tell you, no, don't do that. In the Zoo matchup especially, using Preparation as a pseudo Innervate is usually really good, and definitely at its best when you compare it with Edwin.
Exactly. Not just Innervate, but also a +2/+2 on your minion for 0 mana. That's really good.